Lesson 3. I will create conversion tables for units of time and use the tables to solve problems. So Lesson 3 is a continuation of Lesson 1 and Lesson 2, but today we're going to be converting units of time from minutes, seconds, hours, and days. All right, so let's start with our practice sheet, and let's look at our very first conversion table. So you can see we have minutes converted to seconds. So how many seconds are in a minute? Well, that would be 60, right? All right, so we're going to put 60. So if there's 60 seconds in 1 minute, how many seconds are in 2 minutes? Well, 6 times 2 is 12, so it'd be 120. How many seconds are in 3 minutes? Well, 6 times 3 is 18, so it'd be 180. How many seconds are in 4 minutes? Well, 6 times 4 is 24, so it'd be 240. I want you to go ahead and I want you to finish the rest of this chart. Okay, so let's check the rest. All right, so you should have had 300, 360, 420, 480, 540, 600. So how many minutes are in an hour? Well, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So how many minutes are in 2 hours? 120. How many minutes are in 3 hours? 180. Are you starting to notice something? Are you starting to notice that these tables are exactly the same? Well, I am too. Let's go ahead and copy them. Okay, now let's talk about what the rule is. What is the rule for converting minutes to seconds? Well, what do we do to every hour to get, to every minute to get the seconds? We multiply, that does say multiply. What do we multiply by? We multiplied by 60. And the rule for this conversion table is exactly the same. Multiply by 60. Okay, now let's talk about from days to hours. How many hours are in a day? Well, there are 24, right? So we've got 24. So how many hours are in 2 days? Well, what is 24 times 2? 48. So you could continue. You could add 24 to every single one of these if you wanted to. Or if you want to remember, you could go to Google Chrome. And remember, you can use your Google search bar as a calculator. So we could do 24 times 3. And what do I get? I get 72. So I'm going to do a split screen here. And I'm going to go ahead and put 72. If you're at school, you can borrow one of my calculators or you can use Google Chrome. But I want you to go ahead and fill in the rest of this chart and come back. Okay, so let's check. So you should have had, after 72, you should have had 96, 120, 144, 168, 192, 216, and then finally 240. So what was the rule for converting days to hours? We had to multiply. What did we multiply by? Multiply by 24. All right, so let's use our conversion tables to do a little bit of problem solving. So we are going to use the RDW process to solve problems 1 through 2. So first we're going to read. Courtney needs to leave the house by 8 a.m. If she wakes up at 6 a.m., how many minutes does she have to get ready? Use the number line to show your work. So you can see they already started the D for this process. We could use a number line. So she needs to leave the house by 8 a.m., but she wakes up at 6. So we have from 6 to 8. And it's asking how many minutes does she have to get ready? Well, how many minutes are there from 6 to 7? Well, that would be 60 minutes. And then how many minutes are there from 7 to 8? Well, that would be 60 minutes. So if I took 60 plus 60, that would give me 120 minutes. So how many minutes does she have to get ready? Courtney has 120 minutes to get ready. All right, let's take a look at problem number 2. Juliana's goal was to run a marathon in under 6 hours. What was her goal in minutes? So we could draw another number line like they have here, or we could use a tape diagram, or we could draw a conversion table. I'm going to go ahead and just draw a tape diagram just really quickly, and I'm going to divide it into 6 parts because it says 6 hours. So let's go ahead and divide this into 6 parts. And each of these parts is going to be an hour. So I could either do 1 hour, or I could put in here how many minutes are in an hour. I'm just going to put 1 hour in every single one of these. You could have put 60 minutes in every one of these too. All right, so altogether, we have 6 hours. And I want to know how many minutes that is. So my rule is to go from hours to minutes, I take 6 times how many minutes are in an hour. There are 60. I would have 60 6 times. So 60 times 6 is equal to how many minutes? 360 minutes. So Juliana's goal is 360 minutes. Okay? All right, let's take a look at number 3. Now we're going to complete the following conversion tables and write the rule under each table. So we've already done the first 4 on our practice sheet, right? So we went from minutes to hours. So remember, we're going to multiply by 60. So there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. And 60 times 3 is 180. 60 times 6 is 360. And then 60 times 10 is what? 600, right? All right, so if I wanted to do 15, now you're going to notice that I don't have 10 and 5. So, I could come over here and just do 15 times 6, which I think will probably be the fastest way to do this. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video and figure out what 15 times 60 is, and then let's come back and check. Okay, did you get 90 minutes for 15 times 6? So if it's really 15 times 60, that means that this would be 900. Okay, so what is the rule, again, for converting hours to minutes and minutes to seconds? Because remember, those were the same. The rule was to multiply by what? By 60. All right, so let's do days and hours. So we already did all of these on our conversion table back from our practice sheet. So if you want to go back to your practice sheet that looks like this, you could just copy from one to the other because we've already figured all these out. So let's go ahead and pause the video and let's fill in this chart with what we've already done. Okay, so let's check. So you should have had 24, 48, 120, 168, and then 240. All right, so let's see. The rule for converting days to hours is what? This time we are multiplying by 24, right? All right, moving right along. Now we're going to solve some problems. 9 hours and 30 minutes, and we want to know how many minutes. So we've already kind of converted this, but I think we can probably do this pretty easy. To go from minutes to hours, you have to multiply times 60. So 9 times 60. What would that be equal to? Well, that would be equal to 540. So now I have to take my 540 and add that to 30, and that gives me 570. All right, let's try another one. So we're going from minutes and seconds to seconds. So again, remember the rule for going from minutes to seconds is to multiply by 60. So I'm doing 7 times 60. So 7 times 6 is 42, and then I add my 0, and then I add 45 to that, and that gives me 465. So I've got 465 seconds. All right, I want you to do C, D, E, and F by yourself, and then come back and we'll check it together. Okay, so let's take a look at how you did on C. So we've got 9 days, and we're trying to convert that to hours. So you could have looked back at your conversion table. Now this one, you would have to do a little bit of adding, but if you went all the way back to your problem set like this, and you scroll down, and you would see that there are 216 hours in a day. So then you would take your 216, and you would add that to 20, and that would give you 236. All right, so for D, we have 22 minutes. Hopefully you've already tried to do this one by yourself. So you know that there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. So the rule is to take 22 times 60. So we could look back and see if we couldn't do a little bit of addition, but I really think that this would probably be the easiest way. Let's just do 22 times 60. So remember, when I multiply times a 10, I just add a 0. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my 0. And now it's just like 22 times 6. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 13. So I have 1,320 minutes, and I'm going to add 27 to that. So 1,320 plus 27 would be 1,347 seconds. Okay, let's take a look at E. So we've got 13 days, and we're trying to convert this to hours. So we could do 13 times 24, but we have those conversion tables. So let's go back and look and see if we can use our conversion table and see if that will help us. Okay, so let's go back to this one. So we could do 13 there, but I think it'd probably be better to go back to this one. And we've got 3, which is 72, and then we have 10, which is 240. So let's take a look at this for a second. So if we're trying to get 13, 10 and 3 equal 13. So if I take 240 and I add that to 72, that will give me 2 plus 11 would be 312. Okay, so I've got 312. Let me go back to standard view here. All right, so 312 hours plus 19. So I know 312 plus 20 would be 332. So I'm just going to take one away, and that's 321 hours. Okay, so hopefully you tried F by yourself. This is the trickiest one. They tried to trick you, didn't they? They went from hours and minutes to minutes. Okay, so let's try this. So we've got 23 hours, and we're trying to see how many minutes are in an hour. So we've got 23 times 60. So this is almost exactly like this one, isn't it? So remember, we multiplied times a 10. We always just add a 0. And now 3 times 6 is 18. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So I've got 1,380 minutes plus 5 equals 1,385 minutes. Now E says, explain how you solved problem 4F. So I'm going to have to kind of erase this to have some room here. So I'm going to explain how I solved this problem. Well, first, I multiplied 23 times 60 and got 1,380 minutes. Next, I added 1,380 to 5 and had a total of 1,385 minutes. So you notice all I did was just explain exactly what I did, step by step. Okay? All right, so how many seconds are in 14 minutes, 43 seconds? All right, so we've got 14 minutes, and we want to know how many seconds are in there. Let's go back and look at our conversion table. 14 minutes. So remember that even though this says hours and minutes, remember we could exchange this from minutes to seconds because it's exactly the same. So we're trying to do 14. So I could do 10 plus 3 plus 1, or you know what, it might be just as fast to go ahead and just do 14 times 60. I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to finish this problem and see what you get. Okay, so did you end up with 883? Let's see how I got that. So I took 14 times 60. So remember, when I multiply times a 10, I just put down my 0. 4 times 6 is 24. 1 times 6 is 6 plus 2. So I got 840. And then I added that to 43, and I got 883 seconds. All right, how many hours are there in 4 weeks and 3 days? So how are we going to do this? We're going from weeks and days to hours. So first I'm going to have to do something about these weeks. How many days are in a week? 7, right? So if I did 4 weeks times 7 days, that gives me 28 days. And then if I go ahead and add those 3 days, now I have 31 days. Now, how am I going to figure out how many hours there are in 31 days? Well, I would have to take 31 times 24, right? So you could solve this, you could work it out, or you could use a calculator. It doesn't matter to me. So we're going to do 31 times 24. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work this out. I'm going to do 31 times, I'm going to use a distributive property. 31 times 20 plus 31 times 4. Okay? So 31 times 2 would be 62, and I'm going to add a 0 to that, and that gives me 620. Now I'm going to do 31 times 4. I could come over here and just do 31 times 4. I could probably do it in my head because there's really no regrouping, but it's 124. And I'm going to add these together. So 620 plus 124 would be 744 hours. It's a lot of hours, isn't it? All right, so today we used the same strategies that we've used in the last 3 lessons, but today we were talking about units of time. You just need to remember what the rule is and apply that rule and then add it together. You can do it.